Welcome back. And we are now on the last stretch really of the show. Of course, like she said, it's about the weather. Hurricane Emma is continuing to lash Florida as it moves north up the peninsula. It is currently heading into the Tampa Bay area, according to the latest updates from the U.S. National Hurricane Center. But the storm is weakening, thankfully, but it's been downgraded to a Category 1 storm, but it still remains largely dangerous. Indeed, it was a Category 4 storm when it first made landfall in the key Florida Keys. The full extent of damage in Florida is not known, although at least 3.3 million homes are without power in the state. Yes, indeed. Now, Florida Power and Light says the damage sustained from Irma would have to be rebuilt completely and could take weeks and not days. The casualty figure so far is 28. 3 dead in Florida, 25 in the Caribbean. Florida Governor Rick Scott says he has requested a major disaster declaration from President Donald Trump. Well, joining us on phone is an environmentalist and a climate change advocate, Yuniko Uduka. Good morning to you, Yuniko, and thank you for joining us. You're talking to us from Ohafia, Abia State in the country. First off, is nature doing to us what we have done to it?
Thank you very much. Good morning. This is nature. This is nature in process. This is nature in process. What is happening in the U.S. is nature in process.
Okay, nature in process. Is it that man has gotten in the way of nature and nature really must take its course? Bringing it back quickly to the issue of climate change, Donald Trump has said, that contributing to the Green Fund has cost the United States a huge amount of dollars. Do you think he'll change his mind now with the hurricanes coming one after the other in the U.S.?
Yeah, well, it depends on what President Trump wants to do. Climate change is an international politics, and in international politics, countries consider their national interests very first. For Trump, he thinks that the Paris deal, the Paris climate deal, is going to hurt the development process some development process of the U.S., particularly what he calls the development of clean coal in some way in Texas. I am very sure that what is happening in Florida and Texas is going to let him have a rethink of pulling out of the Paris
Agreement. All right, but this is a man, of course, he's a businessman. What he needs right now is just to make money, according to him, anyway. And of course, talking about coal generation, especially in Texas, you think it will be something that Americans especially should look up to, that President Donald Trump would want to be a signatory now to the Paris Agreement, knowing that he's a businessman, really.
Really. One other thing, Mr. Trump might be banking on is that the truth is that there is it is actually premature to conclude that human activities and particularly greenhouse gas emissions that cause global warming have had a detectable impact on Atlantic hurricane, as we are seeing it in Texas and in Florida. So the link of hurricane and climate change is still very thin. So he might be counting on that. But then there is a way that climate change could exacerbate the issue of hurricane. If you understand that although the intensity of hurricane depends on other factors, that is warmer seawater tends to promote, but the warmer seawater tends to promote strong winds. Sea temperatures have been rising, so part of what is happening in the Gulf of Mexico and at the moment is what they're seeing in Florida and in Texas.
How sustainable are the measures that governments are putting in place, especially with the case in Florida where you had to evacuate 6.5 million people? The question has been asked, where did all of these people disappear into, since the shelters could only house about 100,000 people? What are the more sustainable ways or measures that this can actually be tackled?
Well, like I said, if you're talking about sustainability,
yes,
the best at the moment, the best sustainable way is for people to get the awareness. Thank God that science has been somehow so accurate in telling us when these hurricanes will come. The truth is that hurricanes will continue to come. They will continue to be a natural phenomenon. So we are not going to run away from it. But what we are talking about is if there is a way that will lessen the amount of greenhouse gases we pump into the atmosphere, definitely is going to if the global warming reduces, if we are going to stay below 2 degrees Celsius as we are advocating, and is going to lessen the impact of hurricanes on livelihood. That's the only sustainable way we can go in green.
All right, now we know, of course, it's not only the United States that is experiencing this problem at this time. Talking about the need for Trump to agree to the Paris Agreement, but then how important really is for countries to have effective early warning systems, because it seems that that is what has saved millions of lives right now in Florida especially. Yeah,
sure, absolutely, you are correct. Countries should try to have early warning systems, and there should be some adaptive measures that put in place, just like what is happening in Nigeria, in somewhere in Benue State. So if we have early warning signals that trying to tell people that this thing is going to happen at this particular time, so an early evacuation and early measures are taken, is absolutely correct. Early warning systems cannot be overemphasized.
Yes, indeed. And many describe this particular Hurricane Irma as the worst they have seen in a lifetime, and it's not likely that people would see this again. Unless, of course, the situation is really dire. We know that Jose and Katia hurricane are on the trail of Hurricane Irma already.
We're talking about Lee too.
Absolutely.
Correct. That's correct. It's quite big. It's quite big, and unfortunately, science has predicted that we are going to see a stronger hurricane in decades to come. That's correct.
No. Is there a possibility that Nigeria may be in the way of hurricanes anytime in future, since the climate seems to be changing and changing really fast?
Well, I'm not a well-grounded oceanographer, and I'm not. Yeah, because somehow, somewhere we can actually say that the coastal areas of Lagos State might have some problem, because it's close to the Atlantic.
All right.
Most of these hurricanes are generated from the Atlantic Ocean.
Anyway, Nigeria has its own warning already, which was released last week by NISA, that about 334 local government areas could be flooded, and that residents of those areas should evacuate. So what lessons really should Nigerians learn from what is happening right now in the US and act accordingly and not wait for the floods to knock at their doors?
Well, what I think Nigerians should learn is to begin early, just like the warning has come. To begin early to put measures in place, and if there is understood degree of intensity, evacuation should begin now to happen, and the buffers should begin to be built, and people should be made to understand that this is what is going to happen at a particular point in time, and early evacuation is the way to go.
Early evacuation, the way to go. Unico Uduka, an environmentalist, speaking with us from Ohafia in Abia State. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Nigeria too. Have you
been
hearing the thunderstorm? It's been raining heavily.
Indeed, since the beginning of the program, so close to 2 hours now.
And like you said, we need to borrow a lift from how the US has been able to take proactive measures to at least limit the number of casualties in this Hurricane Irma episode. Well, that's how we wrap the show this Monday morning on TVC Breakfast. We look forward to having you again. Join us same time tomorrow, bright and early.
Yeah, thank you.
7. I am Ngozi. And we'll have a beautiful day. It's wet, so be careful on the roads now.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching the show. Join us tomorrow. And of course, do not overlook any flood, no matter how small. Be careful and be safe as you go out today. Thank you, and have a lovely morning. I am Azizat Olaoluwa.